Hey, it's Emma Romano here, founder of the Thrive and Life Foundation, self-healing coach, and the midwife to your personal alchemy.
I am Kelly Bowen, founder of the Heaven Within Foundation, CEO of Lifestyle Finance Australia, finance expert, life and business coach.
And you are listening to Inspired Conversations,
where we talk about the things that really matter. Yes, we go there.
We share together what's exciting us, inspiring us, and having the most profound impact on our lives and our clients' lives. And we do this to elevate and inspire you.
We cover it all from life, body, love, relationships, trauma healing, addictions, business, money, and all things woo-woo.
So sit back, relax,
and get ready to be inspired and laugh the fuck out loud.
Hello. This is Inspired Conversations.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to 2024. We've got some juicy, sexy episodes coming your way. I am Kelly Bowen, and this is my beautiful co-host,
Romano.
And you're listening to...
by the way, happy 2024, everybody.
Right?
Hope you had a great Christmas and holidays and all of that. And if you didn't, thank fuck it's not now, eh? thank fuck it's over.
Right?
Today's going to be a really juicy one. A really juicy one.
It is.
Do you want to, this is, Kel is actually going to take over this one, and I'm just going to put my little two bobs worth in. Can I explain how we got this? So today I wanted to talk about duality. And I was talking to Kel saying, where there's light, there has to be dark and all that sort of stuff. So if things are going particularly well, I will get a fear. So I'll give an example. I've been earning a lot of money lately, which is great. Yay, go me.
Woo.
Go me. And I've had probably the greatest Christmas and New Year that I've had in a very long time. I've really relaxed in it. I've loved it. I haven't been freaking out about, work or anything like that. I've been really surrendering and just enjoying in the moment, like being really super present. And it works, by the way. So instead of freaking about what things that people are thinking or saying or what's going to happen tomorrow, I've just been really super present. Loved it. Mm-hmm. So I was talking to Kel about this, going, I want to talk about duality where, even though I'm abundant, I still worry about money. She's gone, it sounds like you're upper limits. I go, what's an upper limit, Kel? And then she explained, she's like a little voice message on my private message. And I was like, oh my God. We need to talk about this sabotage, manifestation. That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, it's going to be sexy. And I'm so glad that you brought this to the table because it's such a really present topic for me at the moment. Towards the end of last year, I was really looking at my own upper limits around a few things. Because I think on one of the previous shows, I'd mentioned that 2023 was the best year that I have ever lived on this planet. It was amazing. I had so much love, fun, play, adventure. And of course, there were some things in there that challenged me and from a relational perspective, really stretched me in certain areas and had me really look deep and into some things and heal some things and come to completion with some things. Yet overall, the theme of the year, it was so fun. And I could feel at times I would also be tapping into my own upper limits. And I remember where I first came across this and what it was the first time where I'd ever really fallen in love, my first real relationship. I was living with my partner at the time, and we would have these beautiful, really amazing, intimate moments. And in the peak of this perfect moment, I would get this intrusive thought in my head, and it would be something shame-based. And out of nowhere though, but it would jolt my system so hard that it would take me completely out of that moment and have me completely dissociate. And even though I've learned to, have a really good poker face, my partner wouldn't be aware of it, but my whole body would shut down in that moment. And I'd be like, what's wrong with me? Does this happen to everybody, or is this just something happening to me? And at the time I didn't know what it was. What had really happened was I'd received an intrusive thought because my nervous system had gone, hey, it's not safe for us to be feeling this much love because at some point there's going to be an abandonment, or there's going to be a rejection, or you could lose this. And so rather than my system expanding to be able to hold and receive the love I was having in that moment, an intrusive thought would come in to shut my system down, to keep me within that pinned thermostat. So when we're looking at upper limits, think of it like your body, your nervous system is set to a particular way of living or experiencing the world. No different to how you have your air conditioning thermostat. When you set it on 21 degrees, if it goes up to 22 degrees, the air conditioning is going to kick in and bring it down. If it goes down to 20 degrees, the heating is going to kick in and bring it up because it wants to keep it balanced at 21. And look, if 21 degrees is a really awesome lifestyle for you and you're living the fullest of everything and you're not somebody who likes to go beyond and experience more, 21 degrees is a great setting. However, for most of us, and I know all of our listeners listening to this show, 21 degrees is just, it's a starting point. We're just getting started because every year we get better. We know ourselves more. We get more curious about growth and expansion and experiencing more of life and more of ourselves and more intimacy in our relationships and more connection with our friends. Like all of this is a continuous evolving ecosystem that we're experiencing within ourselves, which means at some point 21 degrees has to become 22, has to become 23, 24, and so on, which means our capacity to receive abundance, to receive love, to experience health within our physicality has to shift. So how do we do this? And so after I had that moment, like you, Em, where you're like, everything's perfect. Why am I still worrying about things when I'm actually in a place where I should be the least worried about things? That was the thing that triggered my curiosity around this. And this is when I came across Gay Hendrix' book, The Big Leap. And when I read that book, I was like, oh, holy shit, I have all 4 of these upper limits. And depending upon what it is, will depend upon which upper limit it bumps against. So now, if everything is going good and I experience worry or a shame-based thought or something that isn't matching the external reality, I go straight into like my little inner child and be like, okay, what's going on here? How are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Because it's that little person within me that's needing some reparenting in the moment to feel safe. The moment that we can make them feel safe is the moment that we can start to expand and raise our thermostat. Is this making sense so far?
How oh my God. Kel, you have literally, my head is going tick, 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 tick. This is amazing. This is so good. And if people aren't understanding it, just hit pause, rewind, and listen to it again. Because when you get this, when this actually lands, and Kel will explain what these 4 upper limits are. Yeah. So it's a limit in your unconscious mind that says you can't have, you can't do, you're not allowed. And when we hit it, it's an unconscious thing. And this just explains so much to me about me and about so many of my other friends and clients. And I'm like, whoa, this is good. Okay, yes, this is fantastic. Kel, I'm loving this. Thank you. Yeah. Great start to 2024, peeps.
Right. And I've recently had some experiences too, where I've had some things reflected back to me where I've had to sit with and be like, hang on a minute, was my love and generosity in these moments coming through as a place of control or a place of needing to be liked or to be loved? And I really had to sit with it. And then these moments, these particular moments, I was actually really clean. I was just loving and being generous, how I naturally like to give and be generous. But what was happening, it was hitting the other person's upper limit. So it was coming back at me in a way that was very distorted. And I really had to sit with this at this point, because there was points before, like in the past, some of those things had been relevant for me, where I'd really been like looking at those aspects of myself and working with them and healing them. But this particular time, I was like, sometimes just being you and who you are and how you love or how you give or how you do could absolutely trigger other people's upper limits. And it's going to come back at you in a way that doesn't feel that you're like, how did you end up there? Or vice versa might happen. Somebody could be showing up really loving, super kind, generous, available for you, but because you're so not used to it, your nervous system's going to react to them and be like, nope, not safe. And you'll project some kind of all sorts of craziness on it because of these upper limits. But then when we expand them, that's when we get to experience more. It's like, if you have the capacity to give at the size of a 50-cent coin, and you're giving to somebody who has the capacity to receive at a 20-cent coin, there's going to be issues there.
This is huge, because I've got this really beautiful friend. We've been friends for over for 40 years. And we were on the same, we had the same kind of background. We went to school together. And when I started to change, when I stopped being an alcoholic I started going to the growth mindset instead of being a receptionist and all that, she could not handle me because I'd reached her upper limits about who she could be as a friend for me.
Mm-hmm.
So her upper limits, I'm looking back now, she's probably feeling a lot of shame around me because I felt rejected by her, but really she felt ashamed of herself probably around what I was doing because it was her upper limits.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yep. Yep. And reflecting back. But as we start to understand all of these different complex matrices and webs that make up who we are, and then how other people's worlds are, because we're literally just projecting our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, values upon the world, then reflected through others. And they're just doing the same. And sometimes, if they're a close enough match, we have a great time together. And other times, if there's too much discrepancy, it creates chaos. Some of that chaos is great in the aspect that it gives gives us this opportunity to self-reflect and do the self-inquiry and go and do the inner healing work. And some of it actually is a boundary. And it's knowing the difference. I personally always like to start with self-inquiry first. Yep. And then once I've done that point, then I look at boundary. And sometimes it's both.
Tell me about how you process your self-inquiry.
Do you mean what is my process for self-inquiry?
Yeah, it's just like, for me, it's asking myself great questions. So with my self-inquiry, I'm always looking at me and no one else, where I used to go into victim. Well, what have they done to me? Why don't they like me? Now I will go, who do I need to be? What do I need to do? What did I do? What could I have said? Have I had enough empathy? That's kind of my process. Do you want to share yours?
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever actually been asked to reverse engineer this process.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Give me a second. So there's two parts here. I know one of my patterns is if I'm feeling hurt about something, or if there's some level of self-abandonment or self-betrayal, or maybe I'm feeling like a rejection or an abandonment somewhere, my thoughts will ruminate. And the reason my thoughts will ruminate is it's like a bad record that just keeps playing. I know this is one of my defense mechanisms for me to avoid the feeling that I'm needing to feel. So instead of feeling it, my brain will try and keep me really busy. So the first part that I do is sit with that and go, okay, what am I actually feeling underneath this? And then, really depending upon what it is, then I start looking at, okay, well, what was my intention here with the situation? Yep. Not what do I think my intention was, what was my real intention? Yes. That if nobody knew, nobody would know, but I know. What was my real intention here? And then does that, and if my real intention was as pure as my stated intention, then I'm like, okay. Then I look at okay, well, how could the other person potentially be perceiving or receiving this experience? And I'm like, okay, cool. I could see where pieces of that could be really, really true for them. Regardless of whether it was true for me or not, I can see how that could be really true for them. And I'm going to give them that grace. And then if there is something underneath that for me where my real intention wasn't the stated intention, then it's like, okay, well, why am I doing that behavior? Why am I doing this thing because I think it's going to make me more liked? Why am I doing this thing because I think it's going to give me some kind of control or certainty or safety in this situation? And as soon as I get into the real intention, then that's when I start looking at going, okay, well, how old am I in this moment? Like, yes. which part of me is needing my love right now and is needing to have this need met? And then that's where I go in and I be with that part, and whether that part needs, because all of the little parts of ourselves, they're either needing to be seen, loved, heard, felt, witnessed, or completely moved out of a situation. And when we're playing in the quantum, if we go back and find where our inner child is and they ask us for something, if we do that, like in our imagination, for the most simplistic terms of this, if we go recreate that situation, we've changed the quantum fabrics of our timeline, of our existence. So when I go back and do this with this part of my inner child and reparent the child and give it whatever it is that she's asking for in that moment, it's collapsing all of the other timelines.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna share something just so people really understand that. What Kelly's referring to, and we do this with clients and things like that. If for instance, I work a lot with people who are child trafficked, right? Been doing it for quite a few years now. Back to the time where they were taken. And I say, right, you're right there at the time you were taken. Now you're the age you are now. This woman could be 35, or this man I'm working with could be 55, whatever. I go, you're your age you are now, and you're rescuing that 4-year-old you. What's happened? And they go, oh, I'm fighting this person. I'm like, rescue them, do whatever you got to do. And they do it. And it literally collapses from the age of 4 to the age they are now, all the issues that they've been holding on to because of that particular event. It's so powerful.
Wildly powerful, because it creates agency. And that's what we're missing. We're missing the self-agency and the capacity to self-advocate. And so what happens when we go and do exactly what you're saying, we're giving that younger version of ourselves that, which then quantumly collapses time and allows new possibilities to be available. And then, so from that perspective, without like going like super deep quantum, like here's a self-coaching lesson kind of thing, from that point, I'll also ask, and depending upon how connected you are with this or where you sit with this, you can either ask your higher self. I always ask my soul family and my higher self to any timelines that were associated with that part, that version of me having those experiences, to be collapsed and dissolved into love and transmuted for the highest good of all multidimensional aspects of myself. So for some of you, if that just went straight over your head, you're welcome to get that bit out and keep it and write it. But essentially, we're spiritual beings having human experiences. This is just one aspect of us in a physical form, collecting data, sending it back to the greater parts of us to experience the difference between everything and nothing in its most simplistic form. So the reason I have that intention is so that it benefits all me's, not just this me. So it's a very wide scope and a very, very deep healing process, and not to have the simplicity of the process confused with the power of the process. And then from there, I take that version of me and I bring her up into the now moment. And usually there's some kind of color involved, and I bring that color with me and watch things fall off the timeline. And I send like an infinity ball of color into my future timelines to take that healing there. So I just have to live into greater, better realities of more love and abundance and joy, or whatever it was that I was giving her, which then allows me to be able to see things differently and have the higher perspective without the hurt on it. And then sometimes that part will still keep speaking to me, and I still need to be with that part and just be like, oh, okay, I hear you. I love you. I'm here for you. What do you need? And it takes like that part could be active with you for a bit during navigating an upper limit process. And how you change the thermostat is continually being with that part. Does that make sense? Until that part is super chill and is happy just to sit in your heart and is on board for the ride.
Love it, Cal. I love this. Would you be able to share the 4 upper limits?
Yeah, let's get into it. So something I prepared earlier, approximately 10 years ago when I used to teach this stuff. And I found this book and I was like, this is so great. I have to share it with my clients. We have to clear these upper limits. Let's get rid of them. And this is before I realized that growth and evolution is a continuous journey, and it's not a one and done. It's a, like, you've got to get dirty with it, and you've got to be ready to roll with it and evolve with it and keep going with it. So these are straight out of Gay Hendrix' book, The Big Leap. So if it sounds word for word, as it was, it's because I did pause it and write it word for word. So you've got the exact text from the exact master. So the first one is, the first upper limit is, I am fundamentally flawed. So if you have this is very shame-based, which means somewhere along the way that you had received the continuous communication that there's something wrong with you. You are bad, you are wrong. And really where this comes from is when we're little and as we're growing up, when the big people in our world, regardless of whether they're acting in a healthy way or not, if they're telling us off from a survival perspective, they can't be wrong. We must be wrong. So therefore, we must be fundamentally flawed, even if what they're doing is abuse. The child takes on the unconscious belief that they are fundamentally flawed. So the mantra that'll be going through your head will be some variation of, I can't expand to my fullest creative expression. Gay Hendrix talks about this as being our genius, our unique gifts that is us, that is the unique thing that we're here to do in the world. So if I say genius, that's what it's referring to, but really it's just your authentic self. So I can't extend to my full creative genius because there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Underlying belief. If I'm fully committed, I would still fail because my genius, authentic self, is flawed. And that comes out as a behavior of playing small, so you fail small. So you never have to feel that same shame that was reinforced upon you when you were little. And in terms of resolving this, then you really need to ask yourself the question, ask your unconscious mind, where was this belief first created? And then it's going back and being with that little one. And you can literally do the process that I shared with you earlier. And just keep doing that process. And when the other thing that you've got to understand, when you start talking to parts of yourself, so now we're going to touch a little bit on internal family systems, which is a really popular style of therapy within the trauma space. If you haven't experienced before, it's super awesome. You get to meet all these different parts of your personality. You might feel a little bit bipolar, or what's the multi-personality kind of person at the
Just a normal day for me, Dal. Multi-personality. Just ask my kids.
Multiple personality disorder. You're not going crazy, but what's happening the moment that you're bringing awareness to parts of yourself that may have not had your attention for years, they're going to get real chatty. And sometimes you have to tell some of them to, like, you know, I promise I will come to you, but right now I'm just going to be with this one. And they can get loud, but the more time you spend with them and the more time you be with them, the more time you reinforce love, the quieter it gets and the more everybody gets along.
I love that you said the more that you reinforce love, because that is the freaking answer to everything. Reinforce love.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So that's the first one. And I know for me, this was definitely like with the abuse that I'd experienced between the ages of like 2 to 4. This was something that was continuously reinforced. So this one I didn't even realize. And then I kind of look at the things that I created in my life. It was like, I was pretty determined, because even though like there was this shame-based underlying thing, I was so determined to kind of prove it wrong at the same time that it's really like watching all these multiple different aspects of myself that I'd created to cope in the world. Like some masked other parts, and it was a fun Rubik's Cube, or it has been a fun Rubik's Cube unpacking. I definitely do not get bored.
I love that. Yeah, not in these brains.
No. Oh, be a highly complex individual, they say. It'll be fun,
be fun, they said. Okay. Sign up.
Who cares about the fine print? There's my
Exactly.
future. All right, cool. So that
one, Kel.
Yeah, so I'd be curious though of our listeners, who's resonating with that particular one so far? Like, how is that showing up for you? What are you noticing are your self-sabotaging patterns? So for me, like I said, the moments of intimacy, this would kick in. There would be a shame-based thing. Be like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And it would literally pull me right out of these beautiful moments.
That's me.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. In intimacy, I would be like all into, and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, what if they think this of me? Or what if they don't like this bit of it? And then it would take me straight out, and it would be the absolute opposite of being present in that beautiful moment.
Yeah, and no reason for it too, but
No,
it's just
none.
because it's because of these, and it'll be different upper limits in different areas of your life as well. So some of this might not actually be relevant. Other places though, it might be more relevant depending upon what you're doing. So it's kind of like having a multi-awareness of how some of these things could be playing out in your life. Next one is upper limit number 2, disloyalty and abandonment. So the mantra on this one is, I can't expand to my full success because it would cause me to end up all alone and be disloyal to my roots and leave people behind from my past. So think about, this one shows up really commonly, particularly around money, where children don't want to make more than mom or don't want to make more than dad because it feels at some point they're going to be disloyal to them, or they shouldn't be doing that, or there's something that's not okay about that. That one I see in money quite a lot.
I got a good one around that one. So I was working in a manifestation group, and one of the women said she comes from a country town,
Mm.
and anybody who had the brand new car or the brand new ute, the family go, "Oh, look at this dickhead. Oh, thinks he's all high and mighty." So she thought, if you have nice things or if you're making a lot of money, there is a disconnect from me and my family.
Yes.
Huge.
Yeah, and that you'd be the abandonment from the tribe, kicked out of the
Yep.
community, and
Rejection.
being disloyal to the culture.
That's
So how
right.
dare you want more?
Yeah.
Really common in this. Also in families, like you can see this one play out too. Like if you're wanting to, uh, if there's unhealthy family dynamics and you're wanting to break out from it and
Mm-hmm.
you're wanting to do something else, then the family can be like, well, what's wrong with you? That's dumb. Why would you have a dream like that?
Mm-hmm.
Or, why are you bothering making these changes? You're just going to go back to what you were. Like, that doesn't fit in with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is why change, when you're making healthy changes like this, can feel so lonely for a particular period until you start to find your new tribe. The loneliness is a normal part of the journey, but often you're breaking through some of this.
That's so good, isn't it? Isn't that
Mm-hmm.
fascinating?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the belief behind this one is I am wrong for doing better or being different from those closest to me.
Can you say that one again?
Yeah. I'm wrong for doing better or being different from those closest to me.
Hmm.
So think about it like all of a sudden you decide you want to make healthier choices. You no longer want to drink or eat dairy. You no longer want to have gluten. You decide you want to be alcohol free. And
Mm.
your people are like, well, how are you going to connect with me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do you want to do that? Or it might be that you don't want to go out to clubs anymore and you want to start going hiking on Saturdays. Well, what do you mean you don't want to do that? We always do this.
Mm.
It might be that you no longer want to go to the Saturday football after the game drinks because you spend heaps of hours there with people that you don't necessarily care about and connect with, and you want to go do something else. Well, what do you mean you're leaving us?
Yeah. And it was also the other way with me. So when I stopped drinking, I actually didn't stop drinking for a long time because I was scared, how am I going to connect with the people that I love? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's how we connected. It was through having a wine together.
Yeah.
So
Food,
what
food
am
and
I going to
alcohol.
do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Food and alcohol are big cultural things that can create a lot of disruption when you're putting changes in there.
Yes.
Big, big time. So the behavior with this one, you want to talk about self-sabotage because you feel guilty about your success.
Mm. It's all
In any
shame, isn't
create,
it?
yeah, in any creative way that you like to do self-sabotage.
Wow.
It could be compulsive spending, it could be compulsive eating, it could be um, sex addiction, it could be phone addiction, it could be any of the multitude of things you use because you don't want to deal with the upset or the creating ripples within a certain environment so that you don't have to deal with what's underneath that. So you'd rather self abandon, self betray, and self sabotage than do what needs to be done
Isn't it
because
insane?
the loneliness is more scary than the pain of it is to stay until that equation flips and the loneliness becomes more appealing. But we shouldn't have to get to points where we feel like breaking
Don't
to be
you
able.
love how we are? I'm actually really freaking excited for people who listen to this. I want you guys to comment. I want you guys to message us, email us, do whatever you're going to do. Go into our Facebook group and just comment, like, how are you feeling about this? Like, it's massive aha moments. What's coming up for you? Do you feel really good about listening to it? Because for me, I
Mm,
feel really good. I feel super empowered hearing all this.
mm,
Because I'm just going, oh, I do it here, 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 here. And I'm sitting here thinking, listening to you in real time, Kel, going, God, I do it here and here and here. This is great. Now that I know it, now that I see it, now I have power over it.
yeah.
This is
Amazing.
fantastic. I love
Well,
this.
I'm so glad you're loving it. Thank you, past me, for doing this.
Thanks, 30-year-old Kel.
Yeah, right. So with this one, resolving this one, you really want to have a look here at owning your success and sharing it with the people you feel guilty about. I don't know if past me quite wrote that right. I'm going to go with the thing that you need to do for this is actually celebrate your own wins regardless of what other people say. So what needs to happen here is you need to start creating your own internal authority and your own internal compass and creating your own standards for how you know you're doing well. And these aren't don't have standards that are like hitting them out of the ballpark that are so hard to reach that you have like, you need to be an Olympic diver doing a 3.6 degree of difficulty and nail it kind of thing to get it right. You want to have things that you can easily achieve on a day-to-day basis that you know if you are doing these things, you are living well in alignment with your truth, your values, and your beliefs. And you need to know what these are so that you can measure yourself against how you're doing with them, because that determines your success and that determines how well you're doing. And that way, regardless of what other people's opinions are, you've got your metrics for what means you're doing well. And so for me, like having 10 years of wisdom and experience on top of it, that's how I would be revising the resolution. And also being with that little part of yourself and giving them love.
I love that. So do you know what I've learnt? And this just took me 50 fucking 2 years, but one of the things whenever I have an intention or a goal, I always think that I've got to nail it. And I always feel that I won't enjoy it unless I've nailed it. So I'm always looking at the end. I'm never looking at the journey. I'm just looking at the end result. It's one of the biggest killjoys you can ever do to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an example of just something really simple and easy. I have lost the art of how to read, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will start reading. I get bored with it. My brain goes, I'm just bored with it. I'll fall asleep, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
I decided I'm going to learn the art of being able to read pages or a chapter at one time. So I got myself my favorite book, and you're all going to laugh at it. Don't judge me on this.
Is it a smart book? Please tell me it's a smart book.
It's Twilight.
Oh, I love it. Twilight's great.
It's Twilight, right?
Yeah, it's
The
great.
vampires. So
Mm-hmm.
Twilight's like 300 or something other pages or 400 pages. I've nearly finished it in 4 days. But what it is, I'm enjoying the moment in the book instead of like, I have to finish it. And this is what I feel, this is what really works for me. The intention to complete something or to do something, I feel we should have the intention to practice something instead of completing it. So when we can say we practice something, it means we're practicing it every day. So I also bought myself roller skates again. I love roller skating, but I had this massive accident, tore the ligaments in my neck in 2013. I used to do roller derby, and I haven't skated since. So I bought myself roller skates, and straight away the family freaked out, like, and I'm like, I'm literally just roller skating up and down my hallway here. And it feels amazing to me. I don't have to impress anyone. I don't have to do anything. It's just, I'm just practicing rolling every day, and it feels good. And I feel this is important. I don't even know why I started talking about this, but I think it's really important that let's not look at the end game, but let's look at the present game. The one we're doing right now, right this minute. And I think this is going to take a lot of shame. This takes a lot of shame away from me, because one of my upper limits is, what if I aim for it but don't get it? What if I just aim for every day practicing it? And you're eventually going to get it anyway. Because that's manifestation, right? You always get what you focus on. And I just thought that would be a top tip for our beautiful, beautiful people listening in today, and to give you some ease and reprieve from having to achieve. Just practice, because one day it's like times tables or the alphabet. You didn't teach somebody the alphabet once and they got it. They had to practice it. And then it just becomes unconscious. And I feel that practicing anything is an art form.
Yeah, 100%. And
Let,
mastery
yeah,
is sexy.
yeah. What do you feel about that, Kel?
Yeah, I really love that. It totally takes the pressure off too. I think particularly if we're talking strictly about success,
Mm,
there's a lot of there is definitely on the entrepreneurial journey, there is a very big distinction that most people tend to go through, which is success was about the number of my bank account, the amount of people that I'm serving,
yeah.
all about the end result. And with that kind of chasing of success, there is no fulfillment. And then what happens, you go through this big shift, which is exactly what you're sharing here, Em, is that success really becomes about the journey and it becomes about the daily practice because that's where the fulfillment is.
It's
And
so
also,
true.
and I think like when you bring it back to this with the upper limit, then it takes away the shine on the end result. And so it doesn't freak the nervous system out in the same way of like, oh, I've got $1 million in my bank account, or oh, my business did this, or it takes away that pressure because you're not focusing on that. You're actually focusing on the day to day and the enjoyment. There's also a part that I would invite people to add into this if this particular fear of success is the upper limit is or like fear of being different to the tribe is
Mm,
it's okay for you to be different and it doesn't mean you need to love these people any less. And
mm.
going back and being with the little child where the child first felt the abandonment or the rejection and creating a connection with the child and letting the child know that you'll never leave them and you'll never abandon them and you celebrate all the great things they do and you celebrate all the magic that they bring into the world and taking the moment to stop and acknowledge and celebrate yourself for the little wins. Like today I did my practice, today I did the blah blah blah, today I this is what's going to start to build that relationship and help you raise that thermostat on the upper limit.
I want to share something with everybody that, if you don't mind,
Of
it was a
course.
massive win for me. And no, it wasn't about getting $1 million or buying a house or anything like that. I was talking about this friend I've got for the last 40 years, and her and I were on the same equal keel until I started doing all my self-healing. And in my self-healing, we really did separate and we've come apart and together and apart together. I love her, right? I absolutely adore her. But I got to tell you something. I became very righteous and I became very egotistical in my pursuit to be a better person. And this is what I mean by this. I felt she had to change to keep up with me. And I had a lot of judgment around her. So when you have a lot of judgment, even though I didn't verbally say anything to her, she felt that energetically. So when we were ever together, I just created so much shame in her that she found it almost impossible to be with me. And so this is what I'm calling success. We went to Bali for 4 nights in December. It was one of the best trips I've ever had with her in 40 years. We've done a lot of travel together and just camping together and like dinners together and all that. You can imagine in 40 years. And I went with the intention of just loving her, not loving her for who she had to be for me to feel good about me. And it was the best trip we'd ever had. And I fell in love with her again just because she is her. Not because of her behaviors, not because of her choices, just because she is who she is. And it was a massive success on my behalf for my own personal growth and my own righteousness and entitlement. And it was like a big ego death, like a dissolve and resolve of a big part of my ego that always has to be right and has to be, if you want connection, you have to be with me. You know, and it was just a big win. And I just wanted to share that just to see if anybody resonates with it or their thoughts about it. I'm just going to leave that there, but I just wanted to share it with you.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Thank you.
You're so welcome, my
And
love.
congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you. Thank
It's really
you.
big. Yeah.
Yeah. And it eases the whole nervous system on me. And because otherwise you go into this place where you're trying to fix. You're trying to fix all your mates. You're trying to fix all the situation. Just let it go. And you know, our relationship, I just learned from her. I don't need her to be different from me because if she has to be different, there's something lacking within me about me that I'm not fulfilling within myself. And it's a huge lesson. I think it was really beautiful. I felt like I'd grown up, Cal. Felt like I was adulting.
Oh, look at you go.
Look at
Celebrating the
adulting.
adult you. Yeah.
I know. It was so great. It was so
Emotional
good.
maturity. It's a beautiful thing.
Isn't it? Oh my God. You're never too old to learn it, let me tell you.
Right?
Unbelievable.
So good. All right, you ready for number 3?
Yes.
All right, so upper limit number 3 is I am a burden. So this one is created from when we were little and we were constantly reinforced that our existence was a burden.
Yeah.
So what we did in order to deal with that, we either made ourselves super helpful to try and like ease the burden, or we made ourselves
Did we become people pleasers, Kel?
ding 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 ding. or on the other side of that, made yourself so small that you weren't noticeable, or thirdly, become hyper independent. I don't need anybody.
God. Or all three things
Or all
in different
three
situations with different people.
So here's the mantra. So this is kind of what it sounds like. I can't expand to my highest potential or like full self-expression because I'll be an even greater or bigger burden than I am now. So my existence causes problems for other people. The bigger I get, the bigger problem that I am. Is unconsciously what's going on.
Yeah,
so think about this.
True. It's not consciously.
It's not true.
Unconsciously.
Unconsciously. So think about this from a manifestation perspective. We don't get what we want. We get what we are. So even though we might consciously, Remy Pearson, some of you probably know her as Sharon Pearson from the Coaching Institute or International Coaching Institute. She talks about this in a way, it's called two truths. You've got the top line, which is what you're consciously focusing on to achieve a goal, and there should be certain actions you take to achieve the goal. It's a very logical process. And then the second truth is the unconscious truth of what's really going on. This is what you are in terms of manifesting, where you have the goal, where you have the thing it is that you want, then you have the role that you think you have to play to get it. But instead of going for the goal, what happens is you start to meet the needs of the role, which means the behavior comes out as a self-sabotage and doesn't equal the goal. And these two things are continuously playing out. And until we go underneath it and deal with the unconscious truth, then and only then do we start to get a straight line in terms of manifesting, because we're changing who we are, which means we can attract more of what we want because who we are is a match for what we want. But when there's a disparity because we've got things like these upper limits or these beliefs going on unconsciously, we find all sorts of creative ways to fuck with that.
We like fucking with shit, don't we?
Don't we? All right. So the belief of this one is I'm a burden. What comes out in terms of the behavior, exactly as I said, either super independent or over helpful, do-gooder, people pleaser. And in terms of resolving this, one, go in, do the unconscious work, but it's also learning to appreciate and value your own worth, unique talents and gifts. So this is spending time with yourself. This is about like going back and doing the little process that I shared at the beginning, going and retrieving the little one, getting intimate with this part of yourself and reinforcing this part's love and creativity. And this part is potentially going to be quite shut down at the beginning because it's been reinforced about how much it's a burden and not valued. So in terms of the healing, the reworking and the expansion of this upper limit is giving this part of yourself love and encouraging it to be creative. And when it speaks to you about something that it wants to do, you need to implement it. And it could be something silly like I want an ice cream, or I want
roller skates and want to go roll up and down the hallway.
Exactly. So here you're unlocking like your childlike essence, and our childlike essence is a huge part of our creativity, which is a huge part of our self-expression and our unique gifts. And if this has been playing out because you've learned so many different ways to try and not be a burden, inverted commas, to be hyper independent or to be a people pleaser, you don't know who you are anymore. So you need to peel back all of these layers. And as you're going through peeling back these layers, you're going to be at parts of like, I've got no fucking idea what I want. I didn't even realize that I've been running these programs that are taking me to destinations that aren't even what I actually want. And so if any of you have achieved things and then got to the end and been like, oh, that didn't feel how I thought it would, it's because it probably wasn't the thing, your authentic truth that you wanted to achieve to begin with. It was somebody else's idea for you.
Yes, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's a thing about manifestation. People can say to me, "Oh, I'm doing all the things, but it's not coming." Go, whose dream is it? Yours or somebody else's?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, "Oh, hang on, wait. It's kind of what my mum wanted or my husband was." I'm like, "It's not yours. It's not your. It's
Mm-hmm.
not your dream.
Mm-hmm.
I'm meant to have it."
Mm-hmm.
That's a massive. And I reckon if there's 100 people who are trying to manifest, 98% of them are not manifesting or actually wanting what they want because they don't even know what they really want.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
interesting.
And going through the journey of figuring out what you really want,
Yeah.
that in itself is a terrifying journey, because at the beginning you
Oh,
realize how much you have no connection with yourself or no idea what
yeah.
you want. And I know I've spoken about this on other episodes. When I was going through this process, the first authentic thing that came up was I want a jet ski. So I went and bought myself a jet ski. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to go out and buy themselves a jet ski, but it could be something simple
But
like
it
this.
helps.
It helps, right? And it has been still to this day, I still feel my jet ski has been the most therapeutic, best thing that I have ever bought myself, hands down, undisputed. But I think it was because it was the significance of me really doing the first thing that was really true and authentic to me in a very long time, for no purpose, for no business purpose, for no making a difference purpose, for like, it was purely a selfish thing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
great.
Yeah. So find your jet ski, people.
Yes.
This
Find
is,
your roller skates, people.
yes.
Mine's roller skates, yours is a jet ski.
Yeah. So that's number four.
3.
Number three. Are you ready for number four?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
All right. Last one. So this one is relate to this one. I must not shine too bright, meaning that somewhere when you were little, there was somebody that you kept being told that you can't be better than, brighter than, outshine. There was some kind of reinforcement that you needed to be less than you are to keep others happy. Now, this could even be in the household about don't upset, like don't challenge dad, because if you challenge him, you know he's going to kick off, or don't challenge mom because then she'll kick off, or like whatever it is, there is something in there that you has been reinforced, like don't be okay. You see this in with young girls in America doing beauty pageants where mum's been the beauty queen, and this is very stereotypical, by the way. I know I'm giving a very stereotypical example, but just to illustrate, you know, the young girl, don't be prettier than the mum, or don't, like that kind of, like, don't outshine. So this here, what gets reinforced is the mantra is I must not expand to my full success, because if I did, I would outshine whoever this person is that you're being conditioned. Like, don't, you know, don't outshine your sister or don't outshine your brother. Like, they're meant to be the golden child. You can't be the golden child because they're already the golden child. And make him, her look, feel bad.
Do you know what I was told? It was always my grandmother would say, Emma needs to come down a peg or two. You know, which means Emma needs to be quiet, or Emma's too much. I had that a lot. You're too much. You're too much. So that I can really resonate with number 4.
Yeah,
I
and
can
I'm like,
resonate with all of them.
yeah, all of them will show up in different places. And it's just being aware that when, like, the bit, like you nailed it at the beginning, when everything is going right and then the worry, the fear, the doubt, the something creeps in and it's not founded in any logical, rational thing, I go straight here. I'm like, cool, hidden upper limit. That's exciting. That means I get the opportunity to go beyond this.
This is exciting. This is a great podcast, by the way, if I may say so myself.
Yeah, I love this content. Thanks, Em.
It's amazing. It's so good.
Right? Okay, so the belief behind this one is I can't shine too bright because I make others feel bad. And it's been interesting. Like, even if I look at this, I've always been attracted to, whether this be from like a friend kind of perspective or even from like a intimate romantic perspective, until the last person that I was with. But I mean, literally my whole life up until the beginning of 2023, I would always be attracted to some kind of star energy. And I would always find myself in this position where I would eventually get to a point where it'd be like, I can't outshine that person.
Mm.
Really intense, like, huh. So I even remember, like, when I was younger, my best friend, I was 14. So we're at this is when I was a junior girl. This is for under 14s in water skiing.
Mm.
And my best friend at the time, we've been best friends since we were 10. She'd been training for, like, to break the under 14 record for a good 2 years. She'd had like a 2 year campaign, not world record, sorry, Australian record. She'd had this 2 year campaign to break the Australian record. And it was 27.9 meters she had to jump, like go over the jump ramp. And which is, for those of you that don't understand water skiing, this I'm talking about tournament water skiing. One of the events, there's 3 events. One of them is jump, where the boat goes past a ramp and you hit the ramp on your 2 skis and you go up in the air. Anyway, she had this 2 year training campaign to beat our coach's Australian record that had stood for like 13 years.
Wow.
And I wasn't allowed to start and learn the jump event until I was 14, because my dad and my coach, same coach, wanted to make sure that my body was fully developed, because one of the really common injuries women get in water skiing is they blow out their knees. And they really didn't want that for me. At this point, my coach had already had something like 3 to 5 knee surgeries from just too much impact on her body too young. Anyway, so this was my first year, because in under 14s, depending upon where your birthday is, you can be 14 in under 14s. My best friend and I were both 14. So this was our last year to do it. And this was the first year that I was allowed to do the jump event. And I just had a natural talent for it. I didn't even realize. We're at this tournament. This is probably my 3rd tournament where I competed in this event. And I was just like happy-go-lucky, doing my thing. And what I didn't realize was you get 3 jumps. On my first jump, I was like 20 centimeters off the Australian record.
Shit.
And this is like a 13-year record my first year. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that I was jumping that far. And then on my last jump, I break the record. I go from 29 point, I think it was 29.7, and I jumped 28.2 meters. So I had just become the new Australian record holder, and my best friend had been trying to break this record for 2 years.
Wow.
And there was this like huge exciting moment. And at the same time, my coach was like, oh shit, the other that I'm coaching is meant to, she's the one that's meant to be getting this record. Anyway, my best friend then went out after me, and she jumped 32.1 or 32.2 meters, something like that, and then broke my Australian record. But I was asked to play down the excitement on me doing it first.
Oh, Cal.
And then I didn't, so I did. And then, but this was where like I didn't get to fully own my success. Later on, went to win a world title in the event, so it's not like I didn't make up for it. But even then, there was still this dynamic between the two of us, because she came from like a more wealthy background where her parents were paying for her tuition, and I was working for mine.
Oh, okay.
Like very different backgrounds. But this was like a huge thing that played out. Like that's where that's where I kind of first remember the pattern, where I first really remember that showing up. And then I just noticed, like, as I've gone throughout life, I've always ended up in situations where I've been with somebody that like appears to be, like, in my brain has determined them as a lot more successful than I am. And then getting to this point of like this outshadowing kind of point that eventually causes problems.
What problems does it cause for you?
So my last relationship, the one where I was engaged for 3.5 years, that caused all kinds of trouble. Particularly towards the end, and particularly as I really started coming into my own, as I grew and evolved, and really quickly, as I tend to. At the beginning, it wasn't an issue in the relationship, but as I started to, my business started doing better or more consistent than my partners at the time, started causing a lot of problems.
Wow.
Yeah.
This has been a huge arrow power.
Yeah. So, but obviously now, having looked at that, and then my experience of 2023 has been very different. This isn't showing up, touch wood, anywhere currently in my reality, and hasn't for I don't know, maybe a good 2.5 years now.
This is so good, Cal.
Yeah. But in terms of like resolving this one, it's really making a conscious choice to celebrate your wins and experience the joy of your success, and making a commitment to yourself to be the biggest, best, and brightest star you can be for
Oh my
you,
God.
not for anybody else.
That's what I need to do. I'm very good at succeeding things, but I am terrible at celebrating things.
Come hang out with me. I'll teach you how to celebrate. I have a celebration for something almost every day. Too much sometimes these days.
Okay, let's do it. Let's hang out.
Take myself out to all sorts of fancy lunches. My next thing is when I hit my next income goal, which I believe is going to be the end of Feb, I get to buy myself a pair of red bottoms, Christian Louis Vuittons.
Ooh,
I'm very excited about it.
It's so good. It's so good.
And I give myself like little reward budgets each month where like that's just me celebrating me. And even if like I have tolerances too around the things that I'm wanting to achieve. So even if I'm within like 90% of what it is that I want, I'll still let myself celebrate at that. I won't do the, I was meant to do 1.3 million in finance volume, but I only did 1.28. For me, that's a 1.3. We're going to celebrate that. Do you know 100%. What I mean? So I give myself the flexibility to do this, and I play the same game with my staff. Like I have one of them, it's still running. Anytime she gets 20 new business partners within a month, she gets a $600 shopping voucher at Camilla.
Oh, girl.
And the first one, I think it got to 18 and she thought that she hadn't made it and she was so upset. And I was like, I think she got to 19. I think that's right. She was one short. And I'd already decided I was going to give it to her at 18, but I played the game and I waited until the month ticked over and she only had 19. She was like, I only got 19. I'm like, that's okay. You had it at 18. I just wanted to play the game.
That's so good. I love that.
Yeah.
So, listeners, you fabulous people, how do you feel about this podcast? How do you feel about listening to this? It's been pretty big.
There's a lot in there.
There is a lot in there. And you know what? I really invite you to re-listen, pause it, break it down, do what you got to do, and let us know how you're going, and let us know how your process went through it, how you went through it, how it went for you.
Yeah. Yeah, would love to know. I think this is a big conversation starter and very relevant, particularly coming into the new year. So even with some of these, like coming into the new year, as you reflect back, and in particular if you're wanting to expand your goals, and as you grow into them throughout the year, you've got a bit of a framework to notice if some of these upper limits are coming up. And now you know where to go and look to support yourself to continue to grow and move forward.
That's massive. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Kel, thank you for today. That was amazing.
My pleasure. I love it. Thank you for the question. It was awesome. I haven't pulled this content out in so long. And listeners, really thank you. Right? And listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, we're not a paid show, so please share us, tag a friend, share the love, because it's you that we do this show for, and it's you that makes it go round. We love you so much.
We love you guys. Thanks so much, everybody. Love ya.
Bye.
Bye.